Welcome to the podcast. We have Taylor Pollard with us tonight. Just got done with 217. It was a long weekend, but it was a great weekend. Did you come last year for this?
No, this is my first year.
Yeah. A lot of people from your church, though, have come.
Absolutely, yeah. There's been the last two speakers, so I guess Caleb did it. And
Does he originate, or does he go to that church?
He does not know, but he's
there a lot.
been in extended revivals there, and
Yeah.
so a lot of acquaintances and friends, and so and then Brother Shelton bases out of there. So
Yeah.
and with him being over the kind of the hyphen now, that there was a lot of hyphen age kids here for that.
Yeah, I think Levi Jensen preached our. Did Levi Jensen preach one or second one?
Wait, on
217?
I want to say, yeah.
What was that? What was his? Nichols did our first one. I don't know his first name.
Todd Nichols.
Todd Nichols.
Yeah.
He preached our first one. I want to say Levi preached our second. I think this is our fourth.
I was going to say, because Brother
Caleb
Herring's done it
preached
before, right?
last year.
Yeah.
And y'all had a break for COVID, right? Y'all didn't do it 1 year for COVID, or?
I think we did.
Did we?
Because, COVID, all that stuff didn't happen till till March.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I think we did it that
y'all
year.
got it in that
We
year.
got lucky. Now, you became youth pastor during COVID, didn't you?
I did, yeah. And so
How was that transition?
well, that was an experience. That was unique. So my wife and I joined our youth team. Our youth pastors at the time, Marcus and Mary, kind of asked us to come aboard in September of 2019. And so we joined the youth staff so us and like two other couples, and then
Mhm.
our student pastors, and then in after December of 2019 into January, Marcus and Mary took our church in Fayetteville. We have a Fayetteville campus,
Okay.
and they became lead pastors there. And then COVID happened, and it was supposed to be kind of like a transition.
Transition?
Yes, where they were going to be there and help us and go over things, and then they just kind of got. Fayetteville's an hour away, but still they needed to be there, and
Right.
everything shut down, and so we just kind of got thrown in the fire.
Yeah. What'd you guys do? Were you having an in-service church during that time, or was it online? 'Cause that'd be hard to do. I know a lot of churches, didn't go in person for a while.
No, yeah. So I think right off the bat we went into online, and then when things started opening up in Arkansas, I know they opened up a little bit sooner than here in Illinois, but we tried a few different things. We went like last name A through M, come to a 9:30 service, and then N through Z, come to an 11:30 service or something. And then we did. We had a lot of success with parking lot services.
Oh, really?
We had a gentleman in our church bring a trailer out, and we put a huge platform on it, and we had music outdoors, and everybody just parked their cars, and then pastor preached in our parking lot. And so,
did you have a lot of guests come to that, or was it just mostly church people?
it was mostly church people.
Yeah.
But we didn't really kind of feel the effects until after COVID restrictions lifted. We would go knock doors and everything, and they'd be like, and people would be like, "Are you the church that was doing all the music and stuff?" And and so they recognized us just from our outdoor services, and we had some success with that.
Awesome. Yeah, it was being a youth pastor something kind of you've always wanted to do, or did it just kind of fall in your lap?
Honestly, yeah, it just kind of fell in my lap. So I guess in youth pastor terms, like I'm almost 35, so, and I didn't get into it till I was 33, and so I don't know if I'm old for the game, but I thought that season had maybe passed us by, and and didn't know really what the Lord wanted for us, but we just kind of hit the ground running and took off with it, and it's been really fun.
Yeah. Do you have your own little team? Did you have to build a new team, or?
So we kind of kept the team that was formulated. So the unique thing about our youth group is it's a combination of our English speaking church and our Spanish speaking church. So, and we run close to 55 kids.
Good.
And it's pretty 50-50 between English and Spanish. Most of our but all of our kids from our Spanish church are fluent in English, and that's primarily their first language. But we do have like a couple from the Spanish church to kind of facilitate, because most of the parents don't speak English. So
there a large population around that area?
There is, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't have the exact number or demographics, but yeah, that it's like the second.
Oh wow.
Behind, and then for Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Fort Smith is a very diverse city. So
yeah, we were there over the summer. Yeah, I was surprised. We went to another church too that had Harrison. What was that church we went to? They did the drum on the stage. What was that nationality? Philippines. They had like 20, 25 of them there. I'm like, whoa.
Absolutely, there is a large Filipino community,
Mm-hmm.
and then Laotian community as well in Fort Smith, and so that's kind of been the vision is that Levi Jensen kind of has set with being our Spanish pastor and everything, but it's been prophesied by numerous peoples of the multicultural revival that'll take place in Fort Smith. So.
Awesome. What were kind of some of the speed bumps you ran into? Obviously, COVID didn't help. You have any struggles when you took over, or was it pretty smooth?
So kind of when we took over, we're right in the middle of COVID. So there's no in-person interaction really. And so, and aside from my phone, like I'm not the most technological person, but, and so planning events and stuff we did Zoom meetings. We tried to do like Zoom game nights where we played like scavenger hunts, and we would have 10 to 15 kids join in and stuff. But then, and just trying to stay connected and keep that connection with kids while they're isolated. I mean, I know as adults, I mean, we could get out and do essential work, whatever that was deemed essential, but kids got to just.
We're gonna get flagged for this podcast on Spotify.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's already happened once on us.
Yeah, we said something about COVID in it, and it just
gave the little disclaimer at the bottom. Exactly. So
please be informed about your COVID-19.
Yes. But no, kids were not in school at the time, and so but we wanted to keep them as engaged as we possibly could.
Did you see any of the kids struggle during that time, during the isolation, or everyone come out okay?
We had some kids. I mean, not struggle tremendously, but I mean it would just wore on them. You could tell it, and then we also, along with having that large of a group, it's a younger group. So I mean, juniors and seniors are not our majority. And so the 12, 13, 14-year-olds, and so kind of keeping them engaged, you could just kind of tell, like, mentally they like that social interaction. They like being together and face to face. So you could just tell it was a relief when we finally got to go back in person.
Did you hate doing the Zoom stuff? I thought we did it for our Sunday school. I thought it was the worst.
There was definitely challenges, and like, so I mean, you try to make the best of it, but I mean, my wife was like, well, I want to be on it, and I'm like, well, you're not gonna sit next to each other. So like, she'd be on her computer in one room, and then like I'd be in another room, and I could hear her. And
the funny thing about it here, Patrick, so I do the middle school. It's a Sunday school teacher. Middle school, high school. I thought there was one other class that was doing Zoom. They're like, we want you to get in touch with your class once a week, do a little lesson or whatever. Just make sure you connect. So I'm like, okay, once a week, I'm down. I get like 8 weeks into it, and I find out I'm like the only person doing it. I'm like, what are we doing?
For all the different classes and stuff? Yeah, because I remember our like age group met like twice.
I know. All these people are like, we're going to do it every week, I'm like, okay. I did it for like 8 to 10 weeks, and I'm like, man, I hate Zoom.
Yes, and
it is the worst.
And there's always just kind of a fear in the back of your mind, like, I'm gonna say something not inappropriate, but like I don't want to go viral.
You don't want to like turn into a potato like that one professor did and all that stuff. That went viral.
Absolutely. I'm gonna leave my microphone off and go to the bathroom or something. No.
It was such a disconnect too. It's just like, the kids kind of didn't really want to do it, but since I'm asking them to do it, they're going to do it. They'd rather be in person. Oh, I hated that.
Mm-hmm. We tried to make it as fun as possible. So like on our scavenger hunts, I was like, go find like a tablespoon of flour and stuff. So like we're sending kids off into their kitchens and their parents have no idea what they're looking for and stuff. And so,
that'd be funny. See what they come back with.
Yeah, right. Really mess. Yeah.
Here's some salt. Is that what you're looking for?
And then
I'm sure most of them didn't know what they were looking for.
No.
That's funny. So, like, how do you guys plan out? Like, do you guys, like, meet together once a week as a youth group to do activities once a month?
We try to do, so we do a Wednesday night service every week. We split out
a youth service?
A youth service.
Oh, wow.
And so while our adult class and our hyphen meet separate, and so we have our own little building, and so we do a youth service with music and preaching every single week, and then we try to do an activity at least once a quarter if the schedule allows, between rallies. And
so you have a bigger church, so I'm sure you have a busy schedule.
Absolutely, yeah. So we our church secretary just got access. Like I was like, I can't get the church calendar on my phone, and so like all the dots went from like just national holidays to like now every day has a dot. And I'm like, I don't want the church calendar anymore.
Take it off.
Get rid of that thing.
Yeah. So you do that once a quarter. What kind of activities you guys do?
So like January, we try to do it seasonal. So here coming up in the next week or so, we're supposed to be going ice skating, and there's a place up in Rogers, Arkansas, and then summer we'll do like outdoor or activities, and then in the fall we try to do a bonfire and out to someone's house or have hay rides and stuff. And so we just try to keep them involved and keep the cost to a minimum. Yeah, because they're already paying for camps and HYCs, and with it being a youth congress year, fundraising has to begin immediately.
You take them to all that?
We do, yes. So and this will be our first year kind of overseeing NAYC and taking them on that, because we had planned to go in 2021 and they could not. I guess that was supposed to be in Indianapolis and couldn't fit it within the restrictions. So that year we actually took them to, we went down to Dallas, planned a trip out of it, went to Six Flags, and then there were several churches hosting like a watch party because it was done online. So we went to that service, and they had a great time. Had two of our kids get the Holy Ghost.
Oh wow!
And so, but we try to give them things throughout the year and periodically to keep them engaged. And
do you preach every Wednesday then, or do you have some of your team help?
So I preach maybe 2 Wednesdays out of the month, and then our other youth staff members, or I try to bring in somebody, or if pastor feels like he needs to spend some time with the youth, we always try to make room for our ministry team to come through there. But majority I'm behind the pulpit, but I try to get some of our youth guys, younger guys involved.
Have you always gone to this church?
Since I got in church.
Okay.
And so
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was not born and raised in Pentecost, so I got into church when I was 19.
Oh wow.
Just January 6th, 2008 is my first time was at TPC, formerly known as Northside. First Sunday service, got the Holy Ghost and was baptized, and started going there. Levi Jensen, we've been best friends since first grade, and he was the one that actually got me into church.
Oh,
so, wow. But since I got in church, this has been my home.
Did you go to church before that at all, or was that like literally the first time?
No, I had been in church and kind of deemed the good kid amongst my friend group.
Yeah.
But so therefore, the first my like elementary years, we went to a Church of Christ denomination, and then through junior high and high school, I was went to a non-denominational church with my family. So had been in church, been exposed, but never into a Pentecostal church. Or I think like the first time I'd stepped foot in it and heard someone speaking in tongues.
See you later.
Yes.
I'm out. What was kind of the buildup when you were 19 to get to that service?
So it was a lot of discussions with Levi and our other friend Brent Spencer, who we all grew up together. Brent and I were college roommates, and Levi got him to start coming to church first, and he started coming to Fort Smith about 6 months before I did. But after they started going to church, then we pretty much all stayed in the same dorm room. And I was like, well, these guys are leaving every Sunday and every Wednesday without me. And Brent started dating a girl. I was like, well, that seems pretty cool. Maybe I'll go to church and find a girlfriend or something.
There you go.
And so,
you hear that, Stacy? That's the only reason he came.
Exactly. And then so
you saved him.
Yep.
And I guess her dad knew it, because like the first time I ever asked him to take her on a date, he was like, no.
Immediate denial.
Immediate denial. And I was like, you're kidding, right? He's like, absolutely not. No. So I dropped it for like 2 years and then revisited.
Hey, at least you stayed committed to it, right?
He just realized he's not getting rid of me. So might as well give in.
How old were you when that happened?
When we started, so we've been married 9 years, going on 10, and we dated. So I was like 23.
Okay.
Yeah, when we started dating. So
just a straight up no.
Yes.
Denied.
Like no, haha, no, like smirk. Just said no.
I gotta ask, how was the permission to marry kind of thing, or not permission? It's more like blessing kind of thing,
Each talk got progressively longer. So like
each talk. So it was more than one talk.
There was 3 talks. There was like I did not know that I had to, but she was like, yeah, you're going to have to ask him to go on a date.
What?
And then to make her officially like my girlfriend. That was about an hour-long conversation.
Oh, wait. So you had to do one for just
the first date.
Just the first date, and then when she actually became your girlfriend.
Yes.
And then whenever she was your wife.
And then to propose to her, yes.
Wow. All right. Well, I don't have to worry. That's nothing compared to what I had to do. What you did was nothing compared to what I had to do. I thought mine was terrifying.
Yeah. So, and then the last talk, like, I had everything planned. I think I already had the ring and everything, and I needed to and I called him. I was like, I know y'all are heading out of town. Can you meet with me just for a little bit?
Got him.
And he said no. He said, I'll talk to you Monday when I get back into town. I'm like,
made you sit on it all week.
Well, her birthday was like, I'm trying to do this like tomorrow. And luckily my mother-in-law is a saint and she's great. And she's like, Ronnie, you know what he's wanting to talk to you. You call him back. And so I was able to get over there and have that 2.5 hour conversation.
Yeah, I had to ask Pastor, to date Ripley. Yeah. I was like, hey, I wanted to see if I could date Ripley. He's like, well, that's her decision, but I have some rules.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then when I asked Pastor, I did kind of something similar. I went into his office like 5 minutes before Sunday night service. I was like, hey, I need to talk to you. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
He's like, what do you need? I said, well, I want to marry your daughter. He's like, well, I'm not going to make that decision 5 minutes before service, but he's like, we'll have to talk about that.
Yeah.
My thing, obviously I'm not married yet. That's coming soon, but I mean mine was a little bit different. I'd never met the man before.
Yeah.
And I was like, so he's like, we were getting ready to go inside the house, and we were walking through the garage, and my fiance and her sister were walking in front of me, and her dad was behind me, and he goes, "So I hear you want to marry my daughter." And yeah, they walked inside, and her sister turned around and just waved and said bye and shut the door.
Oh my goodness!
Just left me, fed me to the wolves.
Ambush.
Just left me there.
Yeah, I think I had the best experience.
This was a setup.
Yeah, 100%.
So, but it worked out, and so.
Yeah. Have you been preaching before you became a youth pastor?
I had not. No.
Okay.
So, I did things kind of unconventional, or not planning it. Just kind of the youth pastor thing, kind of fell in our laps, and we just kind of picked that ball up and ran with it, before I was ever licensed, and then shortly after, we took that over. Our section youth president came to me and was like, I'm bowing out after this year, and I'm gonna maybe suggest your name. And I was like, dude, I've been to a youth pastor for like 5 minutes. Like, let me get my feet wet. And he's like, no, I think you'll do good at it. So, then like within like 8 months, I was voted in as our section youth president.
Just falling in his lap. I mean,
and then I was like, I had a talk with my pastor. I was like, he's like, we may need to expedite, because I was doing like Purpose Institute courses. He's like, we may want to expedite that, and so I switched over to Ministry Central. And
did you like Purpose Institute?
I do, yeah, because some of our instructors, because we have a campus at Fort Smith, and so. And some of those courses and instructors are really good. And so I've had to take a couple of semesters off, and with our plate getting more and more full. So, but I think I've been to two and a half full semesters. So, but I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, we tried that here. Do you remember that, Patrick?
Yeah, we tried it for a while, didn't we?
Yeah, not very.
I mean, like maybe a year or two.
Yeah, a couple years. I remember doing one. It just never took, I guess. But I keep hearing about it though, so I'm assuming it's doing well.
Right? And I'm like a in-person learner, and so Ministry Central, I got through it. It's not something like online courses are not something I excel at. So but if I can have an instructor that you can have dialogue with, and you can have back and forth and ask questions to, I'm much better in that setting.
Yeah, I'm doing Wilson University right now for the Christian counseling, which is all online. But the instructors are good. They get back to you. I have more questions on just like the instructions of how to write a paper or whatever, more than the content of the class.
Right.
So that's the only thing, which, I was really nervous doing it, because I mean, I've been out of school for 11, 12, 13 years. So I was nervous going back, but after the first couple of weeks, it gets, once you start doing it, it gets easy.
Yeah.
So you guys have a Purpose Institute campus there. Do you have any people from your church teach that then?
Yeah. So our one of our pastors that's on staff, he's kind of the dean over it, and then depending on what the 4 courses are, we have different leadership roles that teach that each semester.
And then, you get like certificates or what? Like, how does that work in terms of accreditation?
So at the end of each semester, you get a certificate for course completion, and you get a letter grade. You get because there's a reading aspect to it, and then a test and a written assignment for each course. And so they kind of, you have a grade point average, and you have a and then at the end of it, if you're going towards your licensure, that will at the end of the I think it's 4 semesters, or you can get your local license. And so that's the process, the long process, if you didn't want to take like Ministry Central or something.
Oh, to get your preaching license? That's how you get it?
You can. Yeah, okay. It has a licensure aspect attached to it. So
I didn't know that. Is there a different way to get it?
Through so the way I've heard it, I mean, I know I've had some friends at the end of like 4 years of Bible college that a lot of the courses are kind of similar to Purpose Institute, and then the online Ministry Central is kind of what the organization has gone to and kind of steered people towards, and it's like for each local, general, and for each level, there's a certain number of courses you got to take on that, and reading requirements. So, and those videos are, I mean, 16, 20-minute long, and then you answer some questions and read the books.
What kind of access does that give you once you have your license? Like, what do you get, when you get it? You know what I'm saying?
You get,
and I'm only asking this because I have no idea.
Yeah. So,
is it just saying you have your license and you basically I've done the work?
Right. Yeah. You get established and ministerial credentials with the UPCI,
okay.
and then so local is like your base level, general, and each level, and then ordination is your top level. And so I just have my local license, and then and in a couple of years I'll go after the general license. But you get a little bit more, and then there's some benefits from the organization, some life insurance and stuff, and things like that. But
what's the differences in the licenses, like the level? There's different levels of licenses?
There are.
I don't understand it myself.
And so, like the base
low men don't know anything about this. Youth president, youth pastor.
That's so.
Us plebs.
Us plebs. Gosh.
I know. I honestly have questions about it. I know, like, you can do some more things with, like, your ordination license. I think any level can marry someone.
I was gonna ask that. I was like, is it like tier 2 you can marry?
You can.
I was curious.
No, I mean, I think everybody can once you're licensed, you can marry someone, but don't hold me to that. You may have to be ordained.
No, you're held to it.
Yeah, so
we have it on recording. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
This part can.
No. I'm assuming
Totally.
It has more to do with the
Totally.
organization,
Yes.
right? Like you can have different positions within it,
Yes.
depending on the level.
Yes. So,
like you said, you have a local, so it's just for your local area. If you go up, it's probably state.
Is that like district local?
District local,
Okay.
yeah. And so, and then there's dues associated to the district, and then to the general organization. So, and it's different if you're preaching full time, or if you're not bivocational, then your money goes somewhere, and then if you are not doing it as a way of an income, then like you just pay your local church to your tithes, tithe and offerings. So
what classifies as full time?
Or
do you know?
So like full time evangelist makes
like you don't have another job.
You
like
don't.
That's
That's the
your
only
job.
thing you do. Okay.
Yes,
I gotcha. So you're not doing like a side gig.
You're right. Exactly. You're not in some like multi-level marketing.
Seriously, before you got into church, did you ever have any thoughts to go to church? Were you spiritual at all? Any kind of Bible in your family?
Not. I mean, we attended church, and like I said, I was known as someone that didn't do some of the things that other kids did, but it
not really a hunger there.
It was not for church reasons. It wasn't like we don't do this because this is what the Bible says. It was more of growing up in a town of 8,000, a pretty small town in Oklahoma, and that my dad or my family's name was I wouldn't say well known, but I mean there's just a few names in Poto that everybody knew, and so it was always I'm not going to disrespect my family. I'm not going to try to do something that is going to shed a bad light on my family. So so throughout high school, didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't break curfew often. So it was just mainly because of my family and how I was raised, and it wasn't necessarily because I had a hunger to live for God in this way. So it wasn't until I was in college and actually playing baseball for my dad. He's a baseball coach there in Poto for 40 years, and got in church, and I was like, now this is the reason why I'm doing some stuff. And that was the first thing I've ever quit was his baseball team.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Was that
How'd
hard?
he take that? Yeah.
That was the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Yeah.
And so
how did he take it? That's what I want to know.
That he didn't understand it. He had a lot of questions, mainly because it was kind of mid-season, and I played some. I wasn't like a full-time player, but quitting something once you've started it was just was foreign and not really an option.
Sure.
And so when I walked into his office, and I just said, it was before practice one day, I said, Dad, I got to hang it up. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, I've got to walk away. I feel like the Lord's wanting me to go a different route. And he didn't understand quitting on your teammates, quitting on him and stuff. And so after that, and there was some time, and there was some able to answer some questions, and he saw how serious it was. Our relationship got so much better. It was not really a coach-player relationship that it had been for almost 20 years. It was now a father-son. So
there you go. That was a good transition for you.
It was, yeah. And so, like, I didn't feel the call to preach, but like immediately on campus, like people, I was starting to go to the church in Fort Smith, but our campus was in Poto, and I attended like our campus ministry there, not Pentecostal apostolic affiliated, and so like 2 months after, or nearly 2 months after I quit, I preached my first message there on a Wednesday night.
Oh wow!
And look up, and my mom and dad and my brothers are in the back row, and then to have him come up and hug me after that and say, "I'm so proud of you."
That's awesome.
That was just validation that I was making the right move.
Wow, absolutely.
How'd that first sermon go?
It may have been my best one, because it was one that like you get a word, and I was kind of living it at the time, and it was on storms, and I knew like my points and everything, and so I preached it to myself in the mirror like 5 times before I got on that page. So like, I mean, this was before I knew what flowing in the Holy Ghost was and everything.
Sure.
So, but it was well received, and even just that brief exposure to Pentecostal preaching and everything, it was probably a little bit more different than they were used to seeing in a Baptist affiliated campus ministry. So
how old did you say you were?
I was 19.
19.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, do your parents go to church with you now, or how's that going for you?
So now that along with youth ministry and the section youth president, my wife and I also pastor a church in Poto now.
Oh,
wow!
Look at this guy.
Is a daughter work. So and
is there anything else you're not telling us?
let me think about it for a second. No, but that's awesome. That's pretty recent. So that happened in August of 2022. We've had that campus for almost 2.5 years, and pastor approached us, and it's us and another couple. We're co-pastoring that church, and it's going really well. But it being in my hometown where I was born and raised,
kind of hits home.
It hits home, and my dad's been pretty faithful to come. Even I thought at the beginning he was just going to come on the services that I preached and support, but he's been pretty consistent every Sunday and every Tuesday night
since the place has been open in last year.
Since we kind of
went.
So what?
Since you went, right?
Yeah, since we got appointed there in August. So,
okay.
That's awesome.
And yeah, so he's been going there ever since.
What an opportunity!
It is.
Yeah.
It is, and we don't have, just long dialogues about it
Sure.
and long conversations about it, but you just know, just sit back and watch what God's doing in his life, and you see subtle changes, and you see a hand being raised where it never had before, and so I'm trusting God that it's going to be a full process.
Yeah, and that's nice too. Some people, when they go to church, their parents are just totally against it.
Mm-hmm.
It makes family gatherings hard. It's awesome that they were open to it, and your dad saw how serious you were about it.
Absolutely. And so, and then even when I got into church, that conversation was, they still went to that non-denominational church in Poto, and I said I'm going to start going with Levi to Fort Smith every Sunday, and they were super supportive. They didn't question me at all, and have loved it ever since, and they love Stacy, and
that's
stuff,
awesome.
So
that's great.
Now, that time between you became youth pastor, so from 19 to you were 35, 33, were you preaching during that time, or just being involved in the church was your main thing?
Absolutely. So I wish I could say preaching and not backslid at all, but so 19 freshman year of college,
Mm-hmm.
and then probably ran from the call to preach for about 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And so didn't really get serious about it, and just pursued other things. Still went to church every Sunday, every Wednesday, and that's probably why I had to have so many conversations with my father-in-law about
Sure.
So he's our
so that's the reason why.
Yeah.
Now I'm assuming he probably saw you growing up through that, like that part of your life, like your young adulthood in the 20s. That's probably
absolutely, yeah. So you have conversations that are between a college student and an associate pastor, and kind of a spiritual voice in your life that you don't think, well, in a couple of years I'm going to be asking for his daughter's hand in marriage.
Oh, see, I don't know the story or anything, and I didn't realize that he was your associate pastor. I didn't realize that.
He's our associate pastor, and so to this day, I can't call him Dad or Ronnie.
You almost slipped out.
He's Brother Patrick. Like, I call him Brother Patrick because he was my pastor way before he was my father-in-law. So it's just
that's what I do with my in-laws. It's like I can't break the habit. I call Sister Lisa Sister Lisa.
It almost feels like disrespect if you don't.
Yeah,
it does. And so now that grandkids are introduced, Paw, we can get away with Paw sometimes stuff. So, but it's still
even my aunts and uncles, because Brother Jeremy, Aunt Marlo, you can call me Marlo. I'm like, I can't call you that. I've called you Sister Marlo for so long. It's so weird to do.
But yeah. So there was a good 10-year kind of gap that I kind of ran from it, and just. I was very lukewarm. I was still going to church, but I was pursuing other things.
Yeah, what was the reason behind that? Was it just
still a lot of flesh and a lot of carnal desires, and still going to college and having outside influences of a lot of friends that weren't in church, had a lot of pull on me, and so. I wish I could say I've always been the leader type, but there's been a lot of instances where I was a follower. So,
yeah. So how's this new pastor thing working out for you? Are you liking it?
We are. Yeah, we are really liking it, and so when Pastor set us down and kind of explained that he was going to send 2 couples over there, and so we have our Fort Smith main campus, and then we've got a daughter work up in Fayetteville, which our former student pastors pastor that now, and then we have the daughter work in Poto. He said, well, we've done the sending 1 couple up there, and it's kind of, if you'd asked them 2 years into it, what would be the biggest thing? And they'd say, if we could just get some help.
Oh, really?
And so he scripturally, we sat down and said, I mean, Jesus sent the disciples out 2 by 2. Mm-hmm. And so he laid out a game plan, and we were all on board. And so before we took it, I mean, in the 2.5 years that we've had the Poto campus, there was, I think, just a handful, 7 people, I think, voted him in as pastor.
Okay.
And I think the Sunday before we came here, we had 60.
Oh, that's awesome.
So there's been people come back, and we've won new souls. So it's going really good.
How does that interfere with your youth pastor stuff? I mean, is there go 24/7?
There's yeah, it's a constant. And so so we have our Sunday afternoon service in Poto at 2 p.m. Then my wife and I get to be in our Fort Smith campus with our youth and with our other congregation twice a month. And then we do a midweek in Poto on Tuesday, and then our midweek with our youth on Wednesday. And then that Friday or Saturday if we have anything planned for the youth. And then on top, if we got a sectional youth rally. So,
do you ever get any time to rest?
Very rarely, no. we do get rest, and so and that we got to be intentional about our time, with our daughter, and make for that time. And so, and that's what our pastor said is, you're going to learn real quick that it's okay to tell some people no.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it's having to miss out on a gathering here and there, but your body's gonna tell you when it needs to rest, and you're gonna need to have that time just as a core family. So we're learning that.
Yeah, man, that's a busy schedule to keep.
Yeah, what's the distance like? Like when it comes to like going back and forth between those places? Like I don't know the area.
So Poto is in Oklahoma, just about 25 miles southwest of Fort Smith.
Okay.
And so it's not too bad, and we live on the south side of Fort Smith, so we can get to the Poto church in 30 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah.
Not bad at all.
Who are some of your mentors? Growing up in the church, in your 20s.
In your 20s, spiritual mentors. My father-in-law. I don't know if I tell him often enough, but coming outside the church, and I could tell you, growing up in a sports home, I could tell you why not to swing at a curveball on a 1-2 count, or I can tell you some fundamental things that my dad taught in me, but never really been taught how to pray, never really been taught how to be sensitive to the voice of God. And the biggest the lesson in submission that came from my father-in-law. He's the most submitted man to his pastor and that I've ever seen. And someone once just told me just here this past year that success in the kingdom comes from submission. And he may never be a senior pastor, but he's exactly where he needs to be. And so I look up to him tremendously. And then although I'm 6 months his elder, Levi Jensen, him and I have been best friends, but that guy can preach the house down, and he's been a voice and a constant in my life since we were in first grade. And so I lean on him and glean from his friendship quite a bit.
What about Brother Shelton at all? You talk to him a lot?
Absolutely. And Brother Shelton and I him and Levi are really close. But when the first time Brother Shelton ever called me out and read my mail, and if it's never happened to you, just wait. And
Lord.
So it was like, this guy doesn't even know me, and he is who told him all these things. But
the Lord.
Yes. But then being able to, we've had just countless numbers of encounters with God and with Him in his den or in his living room, just drinking coffee, and those times are invaluable. I mean, you can getting that word from behind the pulpit, but to be ministered to kind of on a one-on-one level, I cherish those moments.
Yeah, it's a different feel when you actually can just sit face to face and
absolutely
and talk. Now, you've been youth pastor for 2 years. I mean, what are some of the main problems or stuff that's come up with the youth over that 2 years? You know, things that the world is throwing at them that you've seen.
Absolutely. So, just this recently, I didn't really intend on going that route on a Wednesday night, but I got in on the tongue and on the Bible calls it the most unruly member of the body, but in our day and age, face-to-face contact with teenagers is not
is not through FaceTime.
It's not the issue, but on your phones, texting, group text. You wouldn't say it to their face, but you might say it through a text message, or you may not have intentionally meant to harm them or to offend them, but the phones have kind of controlled our younger generation.
Yeah.
And it's really not something we really dealt with much when we were younger. I'm 31, so
yeah.
I remember getting a phone when I was 12 or 13, and it was like...
You got one that young?
I did. I know my parents are bad.
Yeah. I was 16, I think, when I got my first little Nokia.
Was it a brick one? Like the long one? Could you play like Snake on it?
Snake, yes. And so that was the downfall. And so
I think my first one was it was like a little flip phone.
It's funny that we can just call out the phones and everyone like, oh yeah, I had that.
Yeah. I remember. Mine was one of the first ones with a camera on it.
Ooh.
Took the nastiest looking pictures ever because it was so pixelated and everything else. But I mean, back then we thought it was awesome.
Oh yeah, it's just like, look at this new phone now. Everybody's. If you don't have an iPhone, they're like, what are you waiting on?
I don't.
You're an Android guy?
I'm an Android guy.
Well, there's still a few of them out there.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you say, Harry? That's why our text is green. Oh gosh,
yeah,
that's
your
stupid
fault.
thing.
Yes.
The darn bubbles.
You can always know the Samsung guy from the green text message.
Oh yeah. I've already gotten in trouble about that because my fiance's family is almost all iPhone.
Yeah.
And I'll get a message, and then they'll be like, why do you need a message back? And I'm like, well, I think you guys sent it over iPhone, like over the blue message. And they're like, I did.
Yeah.
Over those 2 years, what kind of culture have you been trying to build with the youth? Main points you've been kind of driving at them.
So we've been really fortunate that we've got, for a group our size, 50 plus kids, and it being as diverse as it is, we've got such a unified group. They get along, they hang out outside of church organized functions and everything, and then those kids love the things of God. And so when we got involved, not saying that it was like this before, but we could just tell, like, we can come in and eat pizza on a Wednesday night and play games and fill an hour and a half, but that's not what these kids want.
Right.
These kids want, they want and hunger after the deep things of God. And so we've had retreats, and we've allowed them opportunities in sessions with Levi and with Brother Shelton to experience those things. And we just try to cultivate that. That's I tell them all the time is not unfortunately, but their generation doesn't have the luxury of time, like previous generations do. You could put it off on the back burner and say, well, the people coming behind me will handle this, but I don't believe that 12 to 15 to 16-year-old generation has the luxury of doing that anymore. And so to cultivate that in them, a desire to prayer, a desire to worship, a desire to live separated and holy lives, and they're all in, and so I love being over our youth, and so if there's a transition that happens, and it's gonna be
that falls in your lap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna open the door and walk in it, but no, no,
I think it's awesome.
It'll happen
absolutely.
at some point, but it's whoever's the next one up is getting a good group for sure.
How many kids do you guys run? Just out of curiosity.
So on a Wednesday night we can have 45 to 50.
That's awesome.
We took our holiday youth convention was just at the end of December. Between youth and hyphen, we took 66 kids.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's a large group, and it's only going to get bigger because we, from a kids ministry to youth and then to hyphen, like we promote every year, starting in August, right before school starts. So like this year we're only losing, I think, 2 or 3 seniors, and we got a group of 12 coming in. So,
there you go.
So our numbers are just getting bigger. So
the opposite happened to me in the middle school class.
Oh,
like a year or two ago, we lost like 8 kids and got like 2.
Yeah.
And our class was like 4 people. I was like, where are all the kids?
Do you remember when they split our classes and they made us go? So we did this thing where the age groups got split. We were getting
we were in the hyphen age.
Yeah, and we were getting like promoted into the next class, but they're like, oh, nope, and they like sprung it as a surprise. And like, you guys are actually going to go over here, and they're like, you didn't get demoted, you just didn't move on.
Yeah,
and we're like,
stuck in limbo. No, we were with Sister Lisa.
Yeah,
the class
was great.
The class was huge.
It was.
Yeah,
so they had to split it.
Yeah,
and kudos to our kids department is that. I was worried, like when we kind of took over, is like that, and knowing the number of kids that come up that transition from 6th grade to 7th grade, as they come up, like, are they gonna desire the same things? Or are they are they just gonna look at me with deer in a headlight look on Wednesday nights? But our 5th and 6th grade department, and they do a great job of kind of preparing them for kind of that it's not all games, and it's not all, I mean, we still have fun and we still do crowd breakers when we can, but they do a great job of preparing them for kind of life after the kids ministry. So
yeah, on Wednesday nights, is it like a full service with the youth, or is there like music in the main sanctuary, then you split?
No, we have so the way our campus is set up, so we have 20 acres, I think. Is that what y'all have?
I don't know.
But we have
got a good amount.
I'd say at least 20. Yeah, I'd say we'd have to at least have 20 here.
And we have 4 buildings on our property, and so the main sanctuary church that only has some like nursery and toddler classrooms in it, and then our kids building, and then our youth are in a separate building called our just our youth building, or our annex, and it's where our Spanish church used to be before they just exploded and needed to move out of there. So
that's awesome too.
We're completely separated from, and we let them hang out for a little bit, pre-service prayer, and then we sing 2 or 3 songs, and then having someone preach, and it's all, the music is done by the youth, and so and then someone brings the message, and then so we let out about 8:15 or so every Wednesday night, and they're getting fed through their midweek.
That's awesome.
How does the structure work at the daughter work you're pastoring, in terms of, you know, the relationship with you and the other pastor, and then you and your pastor? You know what I'm saying? Like, how does that work out?
So so the other pastor is they are from South Carolina. They moved to Fort Smith just almost 2.5 years ago or so. Haven't known them extremely long, but once they got here, we got to know them, and so really good. He's just a little bit younger than me. I did not know that going in. I was like, man, this guy is probably 10 years older than me. But
isn't it funny?
he's got 4 kids, so I don't know if that may age him a little bit, but they're
Yeah,
I feel
it
like
does.
I feel like yeah,
You know
you
that.
would know you've got 3.
Yeah.
I feel like the older you get, like you feel like everyone should be older than you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you get that mindset, like nah, there's no way that I'm older. And oh man, I am older than this guy. Wait a second.
Yeah. And so I look at friend group and I'm like, yeah, I'm friends with 26, 27, 28-year-olds. That's fine. And then like, well, I'm 35. Do they talk about me behind my back like the old guy in the group? So, but it's been going good. So our structure is with that 2:00 service. Whoever's preaching that Sunday does not attend our Fort Smith service. They go straight to Poto, get things set up, and get prepared. And then whoever's not preaching can still attend our 11 a.m. Fort Smith service, get fed, get to be in the congregation, and then drives over the 30 minutes over to Poto for our 2 p.m. service. So, and then we check in with pastor on a regular basis, whether it be through staff meeting or just have conversations with him, let him know
what's going on.
What's going on.
Do you guys take on like any counseling and stuff like that happens, or is that sent to him?
If it would need to be, he would have full confidence in us handling it. It hasn't really arose yet. We've had just one-on-one sessions with people after church or anything, but no, if we needed to, Brother Cotto's had pastoring experience back in South Carolina where he's from. So, but any major thing after that we felt like we needed to bring to pastor's attention, we definitely would.
Yeah. Now, a lot of Daughter Works has a group of people from the main church come. Is that how it works, or is it just you two guys?
No, it used to be like that. We would send a group over there. We still they'll send musicians still, either a couple of singers and a piano player, or but Brother and Sister Cotto, she's kind of over the music, and she's either playing the piano or leading worship on Sundays. So the number that come from our Fort Smith church has gotten less and less. So,
yeah, getting all this stuff, basically what, a 2-year time frame, youth pastor, youth president over the district, and a pastor, what are kind of some of the main things you've learned? Because you have to learn quick doing that much stuff. Like, what are some of the main things that's really helped you?
Oh, absolutely. To have a good support system around you, and an idea is good to have, but if it's beyond your scope of being able to bring it to fruition, then it may need to be revisited or get people around you that can help it make it happen. Don't try to bear the whole burden on yourself. So when it comes to like our sectional youth rallies, like I lean on our section youth secretary. I lean on some people in our church to maybe get music together for the rallies, and just kind of let them know what direction I feel like it needs to be. I handle getting the speakers and getting the order of service and everything, but that's the biggest thing I've learned is not to try to be a hero, not to try to be a one-man show, but it takes a group and to be able to lean on them and let them help whenever you can.
Are you more of an idea guy or like organization?
I'm an idea guy. Okay. Like, so
a lot of our friends are too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I think in January 2022, like I told my wife, like when everything was kind of we were getting more and more added. This was even before the pastoring in Poto. I was like, here's our theme for 2022. Get prepared, be prepared. Yeah. And I was like, nothing's gonna sneak up on us. We're gonna get a calendar. We're gonna hang it on the fridge, and it's January 14th, 2023, and we don't have a calendar yet.
See how that's going already.
Yeah. And so we just.
Is your wife like a planner? Or like a person, like more organized, or no?
She is.
Okay.
And so that's kind of, we don't butt heads, but like she helps me out, and I'm trying to help her. Like,
so basically, when you said you wanted to do a calendar, you wanted her to do the calendar.
I just tell her what I need on the calendar, and then she writes it down. But because she's gonna ask the questions, and she's gonna ask a lot of the questions, and so if until she gets a clear picture of what we're trying to achieve, and so my vague answers are like, I don't know, it's just going to work out. Does not fly for her. And so I trust that it's going to work out, but I need to know how it's going to work out. And I said, well, we'll get there. We'll see when we get there.
It sounds like a very familiar conversation to me. I don't know why.
Is she pretty involved in all your ministries then?
She is, yeah. And so I keep her in the loop on everything, and we make a good team.
Yeah. All right. I think we're going to wrap this up. Really appreciate you doing this with us on short notice. I mean, I just told him, when was it, today or last night?
Last night, I think.
Yeah.
So, but I appreciate you having me. Yeah, it's...
Harrison, come on.
Just you dropping things over here.
Down goes the iPad.
Seriously.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I really appreciate you coming and doing this with us. If you come back again, we definitely want to have you on. Maybe get a couple other youth pastors. We can brainstorm some stuff.
That'd be really cool. Yeah.
I was wanting to do it for this weekend, but it just kind of crept up on us. I had a big idea and
absolutely. Well, hopefully nothing more gets added to the plate, and maybe less is
you
on the plate.
Come back, and you've gotten a second district or something like that.
State representative or something.
PC.
Are we
Pollard.
speaking this into reality right
now?
No political office for me ever.
That's awesome.
But I do appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Thanks for coming. We want to thank you all for watching, and join us again next time. Thank you.
And so when we make statements like your public platform will never be greater than your private altar, what we're really saying to an entire generation is, if you'll build an altar, you'll get a platform. And that's not the purpose of an altar. The purpose of an altar is not a step to public elevation and notoriety and popularity. An altar is a place of death. An altar is a place of alignment. It's a place where you go to die. And you have to have an altar whether or not God ever gives you a public